What's up, everybody? We are live again tonight, and I've got Mr. Dan Hill from Enuff Z'Nuff here with me. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, y'all? What's happening?
Just waiting for everything to kind of open up so we can go back to doing what we normally do when we're not stuck at our house all the time.
For sure. Absolutely, man.
And it's going to be exciting when everybody can get back out there. We've all got a bunch of new music to be playing for everybody. Enuff Z'Nuff's got a new record that people need to be hearing out on the road. So let's go ahead and jump in and talk about that a little bit. Brainwashed Generation. Now, I know there are other drummers on the record, but go ahead and fill everybody in on the tracks that you play on the new record.
No geez. Winding Road, Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is, and Broken Love. I only played on 3 tracks.
Nice.
Dax Nielsen did the majority of the legwork, and then Mike Portnoy's on a tune as well. So,
and I think if I'm not mistaken, the track that Donnie sang on, there was somebody else on that as well. I can't remember.
Alex, I think his name is.
I can't remember his name, but I remember watching because it was Donnie had it posted to his YouTube page and it had the members listed, and I just remember it sticking out because it wasn't you or Dax or Mike playing drums on it. So
yeah. I think he's got a studio from what I know. I don't know him personally or nothing, but like he's got a studio out in Vegas. So his track sounded great and Donnie's track sounded great. So
that was one of my favorites on the album, was the one that Donnie sang. And one thing that kind of stuck out to me, and I told Chip and Alex this whenever I had them on as well, is you listen to the melody in that song and it's a very chaotic melody, and it's just so like, the song is just so, it kind of embodies Enuff Z'Nuff. It's so weird when you think about the relationship with Donnie and Chip over the years, which it's funny, you talk to them now and they say that they might be better friends now than they ever been. So it's cool when you hear stuff like that. But when you think of the melody in that song, it was just very, very fitting to me how it just had this chaotic sense to it. And it just, man, what a track. That was one of my favorites off of the album.
Yeah, no, that was super, super dope track. I'm in full agreement with you, sir. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Bringing back the older track like Fatal Distraction, and you know, it's cool paying honor to the older stuff like that as well. But the whole record is fucking killer, especially the tracks that you're on. I've been listening to it quite a bit since this came out.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, it's kind of just, like with those records, like especially with Diamond Boy and stuff, I tracked Diamond Boy in a day. So like in 8 hours. And this one was sort of a similar thing, even though I only did 3 songs. It's kind of just like, ready, set, go. So, but yeah, they turned out great. So all is well that ends well.
Of course. And now, how would you compare working on this? I know you didn't play on quite as much to like Diamond Boy. I know that how much of this was actually recorded before the lockdown started happening?
All of it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. All of it was Chip demoed all of it out and then kind of just says like, hey, like XYZ, he's kind of the band leader in that sense where he just delegates that stuff down. So, but yeah, all of it was recorded before the lockdown.
Okay, so was that kind of a similar situation whenever you guys were recording Diamond Boy, where you're kind of coming in after the fact like that?
Yep.
Okay. It's man. Both great records. Now, if you had to choose out of the two, which one are you more of a fan on? I know you probably have a biased opinion on Diamond Boy because you played on more tracks, but
I don't know.
You know how the palette changes over the course of time sometimes.
I mean, honestly, like, I don't know. That's an interesting question. Like, I'm a fan of both, but I think they're all great songs. Like, but as somebody that's just in the production world now, I just like great songs, and
Absolutely.
Of course, Donnie and Chip write great songs. So it's whenever there's great songs, life is good. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I'm like a fan of one over the other. I just like that it's great music. So.
Absolutely. So you joined the band in 2016, so you're coming up on basically 5 years playing with the band.
And that just blew my brains out. That's crazy.
Awesome. One thing I wanted to touch on that's kind of random here at the beginning, while we're on the subject of playing. So the last show I did with Whiskey A Go Go was at the Token, opening up for you guys in January of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So before the show, I think it was at like rehearsal the night before in Detroit. One of the guys in the band had told me this story. He's like, so the drummer in Enuff Z'Nuff, he's like, that's Dusty Hill from ZZ Top's son. And that has stuck with me forever, to the point that I went and was watching some of the other podcasts that you have done. And none other than Chip Z'Nuff was the one that started this rumor, if I'm correct. So if you want to kind of brief everybody on that, I would love to hear that story from you.
Sure. Yes, you've heard the other podcasts over the years, but kind of just started as like a joke sort of thing on the Ace Frehley tour. We were on tour with Ace. I think it was 2017 or something like that. And so initially it was like, and now the son of, Hank Hill, like, from King of the Hill. And then it was like, I don't know, it was like, there was like a myriad of forms of that sort of thing. And it kind of ended up at Dusty Hill. And it was like fans after the show and stuff would be like, hey, like, oh my God, I like met your dad in 1984 and I've got his, coffee mug or whatever. We had we slammed a beer one time or something like that. So anyway, long story short, I had to be like, sorry to break it to you, like it's not a thing. But I was gonna actually like print a shirt that said like not related to ZZ Top.
That's fantastic. I just think that's great. Out of all that, the Chip was basically the one that started that whole thing.
It was like maybe it still is a thing. I have no idea.
Well, dude, this was just hilarious. January of last year when somebody in my own band told me that when we were opening up for you guys.
I guess that traveled, huh?
And I didn't know that it wasn't true until we booked this and I started, doing all my research and everything, because, the first thing I go to Google and is type in both of your guys' name and I can't find anything.
Totally.
Like, nothing. And even if you were an illegitimate child, you can still, for the most part, those things are pretty well known about because of the celebrity status. So there would have been something, and I just couldn't find anything. And then I started stumbling upon the podcast, and when I heard that Chip was the one that started that was, that was kind of icing on the cake for me.
Yeah, it was. Hey, man, like it's funny, I guess.
Hey, there's worse people that people could lie about you being related to than Dusty Hill from ZZ Top. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. That is not.
I just thought that was great that it ran into somebody in my own band telling me that. But
it was like honestly, it was like a Google search thing for a while. Like somebody had mentioned that like years ago. They're just like, hey man, like this is popping up in a Google search. Like this is a thing. I'm just like, what? Really? Like,
hey man, any publicity is good publicity. So.
for sure. Yeah.
For the most part, I will stick that at like 98%. So
yeah, right.
Well, cool. So, kind of talking about Chip a little. Tell me about how you and Chip met and how that kind of led to you getting the gig in Enuff Z'Nuff.
Yeah. So first time I met Chip was on a session in Chicago. I'm a Chicago guy. He's a Chicago guy. So we crossed paths in a session for a guy. His name is Jeff from LA. So we ended up just playing on a track. And then subsequently we ended up joining like a local kind of project together.
Okay.
So we were in 2014. So I had played with Chip before joining Z'Nuff for 2 years. And then, of course, I was doing sessions over at his studio, and I had met Tony, who was in the band at the time. And, they knew my playing, essentially, so they knew, like, what I sounded like. And I had been playing, like, in a rhythm section with Chip for years. So when the opportunity arose to kind of just, they called me as a sub, essentially, and said, like, hey, man, like, we need somebody to fill in. And I'm just like, word, like, I'll do that. And I'm sure you've heard other podcasts or whatever, like I didn't have like a rehearsal. I didn't have any of that. Like, so I was on the way to a gig and like Tony called, and all credit to Tony on that, like saying like, hey, like we need you to, maybe fill in some dates. So I took all the gigs that I had on the calendar and said, peace, and subbed those out. And then jumped on board for the Tracy Guns tour back in 2016. The end of the tour, they said, hey man, like do you want to do it? And I'm like, cool, that'd be awesome. So here we are, as you said at the beginning, like 5 years later. I don't know if this year counts though. You know what I mean though? Like this year is kind of like a
it definitely
sort of
has
wash.
to count because you guys put out a record, which you have to you have to man appreciate what a ballsy move that was on Frontiers and Chips and everybody's part that had in that was like right at the point as it came out in May of last year, if I'm not mistaken. So that was like right when everything was just like up in the air. We had been under lockdown for like 2 months, and it just everything was just kind of hectic at that point, more so than it has been at other points. And for an entire album of new material just to get dropped when you have no idea when you can go back out on the road, that was a bold move. But I'm for sure appreciative and glad of the fact that it did come out because it gave me a good album to listen to.
Yeah,
but it's definitely a bold move for that to come out whenever it did. Did you have any thoughts on that whenever it happened?
No. I mean, it's kind of a lame response, but
hey, no, it's an answer.
You know, yeah. I mean, honestly, like those decisions, like aren't, you know, I don't really have any. You know, they kind of decided by themselves, like, hey, like this is the date that we're doing it. We gotta, you know, the label says, you know, you gotta stick to the timeline, so you stick to the timeline. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So they did it, and they delivered, and that was like, it was awesome. So like they did exactly what they needed to do and got it out. And but I mean, to your point, like with record cycles happening right now, it's, you know, it's all crazy.
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to it. You see guys that don't want to put out any music, even a single. And then you have other bands like you guys that are just kind of grabbing the bull by the horns. They're like, nope, we're powering on through this no matter what. So I think it's good to see bands like that adapting to what's going on. And you guys have done a few things since the lockdown has, came into fruition. Like you guys played the live stream on the Monsters of Rock channel, which was very cool. The Kissmas show, which was very cool. Jeremy Asbrock filling in with you guys that night. Talk to me a little about the experience you had at Kissmas this year.
Yeah, Kissmas was cool, man. First of all, they did that correctly as far as the safety protocols that were in place. And they really, really took care of everybody. And all props to everybody that was running that, because it was so well done. And if that's any indication of how shows are going to be for the next year, that should be the model.
Absolutely.
You know, everybody showed up, got tested literally as they walked in the venue, rapid like finger prick blood test things.
Oh yeah.
And you know, so it was great though. I mean, all the performers were tested, and so it just made sense. So with Jeremy, first of all, what a wonderful dude. He's like just a pleasure to be around. And
Jeremy's a great guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Pleasure to be around. All those guys from Aces and Gene's band are so cool. And our guitar player ended up not being able to make the show, and we didn't know until the day before. So Jeremy basically stepped up to the plate, and he knew most of the material. Obviously, he had to learn the live arrangements, but he learned them all in basically 8 hours, I think.
Yeah.
And just rolled up and crushed it. So it was awesome, man. Like, again, super cool dude. What a pro. And just nailed it, man. Learned it all in 8 hours, basically. So
yeah, y'all sounded great that night. I was right there up front, so I was definitely digging it the entire time. And one thing that was very cool is right after you guys get done is you talk about Jeremy being able to get up there and kill it in such a short amount of time, is he grabs the mic and he's like, 15-year-old Jeremy is crapping his pants right now, or something to his effect of that. And, it's just awesome to see instances like that where a guy fills in, but it's also where he's a huge fan of the band. Because Jeremy's told stories how growing up, Enuff Z'Nuff was his favorite band. So it's awesome seeing stuff like that come full circle. And you guys did a hell of a job that night.
Thanks, man. I mean, he's again, to his credit, very, very generous, warm dude and a killer on the instrument. So that's
Absolutely. And like
awesome.
you said, all those guys from Ace's band are just fantastic people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Ryan and Phil, both just killer people. I know you had Matt on the other day, but I don't know Matt too well, but he's again, great player. And from what I know, a really great dude. So
yeah, he did all 10 tracks on the new Monfield record. So it was cool getting to work him with that.
Yeah. That stuff sounds great, by the way, man. Like really, like everybody involved in that, like,
I think most of the thanks has to go to Anthony Fox for mixing and mastering it, because he did such a fantastic job just making everything sound like it wasn't recorded on 4 different parts of the planet during lockdown. So it all sounds cohesive and it hits the ears good. So, but thank you very much for the
anybody listening to this. Go check out that music, because it is very good and there are great players on it.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just going to take that right there and make that my new intro clip to every episode.
Oh, it's dope music, man. Yeah.
The endorsement from Dan Hill. Go check out Monfield. There we go.
Yeah.
Y'all heard it here first.
Do it now. Yeah. No, it's awesome, man. He did Fox did a great job on it. And of course, everybody that played on it did a great job. So
yeah, that Tom Kearns guys is okay. He's all right.
Some local guy, right?
Yeah, he's some upcoming young man. Yeah, he's working on it.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. I want to circle back a little bit to something you mentioned. You said in 2014 you and Chip joined a local band in Chicago together. So this would have been right when Enuff Z'Nuff was taking a break around 14, because there was about a year and a half break where nothing was really going on until it came back with Chip on vocals. So tell me about this band that you guys were in together in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was when they were a 3-piece, right? Because Monaco was in the band.
Well, I think up until 14, it was Donnie was still in the band. And then from what I've read online and everything to my understanding, 14, the whole thing kind of went on hiatus for about a year or so. And then you guys were the next lineup that came out.
Well, they were doing stuff as a 3-piece for a minute. With Monaco singing and playing guitar. So I don't know exactly when that stopped, but in any event. So the band that we were playing in was a band called Super Big. And like at one point it was true to its name with 7 members.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Crazy. It was like Arcade Fire for a minute. So in any event, it was cool, man. Like just straight ahead kind of modern rock with like a Depeche Mode twist sort of deal.
Okay.
So that record was released, oh God, I don't know when that came out, but it was like delayed for a lot of years because it was made over the course of, I think, it was like a Chinese democracy situation where the record was in production for close to 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
So for whatever that's worth, but hey man, I'm not producing that record. So you do whatever you want. Do whatever you want with your music.
Of course.
But yeah, so it was cool. Like we jammed like and rehearsed more than we played shows. That was a thing. So we would rehearse every week. And so me and Chip obviously got tight. I was gigging, he was doing his thing. And yeah, we rehearsed almost every week unless he was on the road, So yeah, it was cool. It was just like a modern rock band with a bunch of, guys and girls. We had a violin player for a time, and I'm still good friends with her. And she's a CSO member in Chicago, so she's dope.
Nice.
But so yeah, like really, really eclectic group of individuals. I'll say that. So it was cool. It's good.
Very nice. So you had plenty of time jamming with Chip before you came into Enuff Z'Nuff. Yeah. And, something that might get lost in transition nowadays is because Chip's singing lead vocals is Chip's bass playing. So talk to me about, as a drummer, what it's like locking in with Chip as a bassist, because I know everybody's kind of focused on the vocal point nowadays because he's singing, but everybody kind of, not necessarily, I don't want to say forgets, but Chip is a fantastic bassist, man. I'm a huge fan of that guy's bass playing. So talk to me about, as a drummer, locking in with him as a rhythm section.
So for sure, one of the best like rock and roll bass players I've ever played with, hands down, period, end of sentence. People really don't give him enough credit for that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because obviously he's been doing it since he was, a young lad. But
that right hand it doesn't stop, man. It's just like ridiculous. A horse.
His hands are like, this big. So
well, he's only like 6'2", so it's
yeah, but I mean, dude, like I said before, it's like everybody in Z'Nuff now is like a killer on the instrument. So it's always a pleasure to play with great musicians, just because it elevates you as a musician. You have to play up, as you know. So when you're surrounded with people that are really on it, and that have been literally dedicating their entire lives to what they're doing, it's only going to make you better. So that's kind of, my one of my, it should be everybody's bumper sticker motto: just surround yourself with people that are better than you, sort of deal. And then of course, like, you get to, it's great. So playing with him as a bass player is dope, because he understands, obviously he co-wrote, the majority of all of the Z'Nuff catalog. So he knows a thing or two about bass.
Of course. Absolutely. So cool. And, you hear that with the new Enuff Z'Nuff records, where you can tell that Chip obviously had a big hand in all the stuff back in the old days, because the sound is still there. And, nobody kind of eats, sleeps, and breathes rock and roll quite like Chip Z'Nuff. So,
yeah, dude, it's all that. Well, it's obviously like minor, major, like with, bass tritones happening in certain places. It's like, okay, like word, like obviously there's some harmonic sophistication going on. So anyway, it's good stuff. We'll gas people up all day. Hey, call into the show, we'll gas you up.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the best program ever right there. Yeah. So you talk about everybody in the band being on top of their instrument and just getting along nowadays. So let's talk about Mr. Tory, who you've got a new project with called Sneaky Doodles. So why don't you brief everybody on what you guys have going on with that?
This question would probably be better directed at Tori. Well,
let's call him right now.
No. Yeah, get him on the line. But Tori was generous enough to start sending me some new material he was working on, and I ended up playing a bunch of percussion / auxiliary things on it. You interviewed Tori, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
It was my second to last one before Christmas, and when I took the break for a minute. Yeah.
So obviously, like, Tori is awesome, like not only as a human, but as a songwriter. So, and guitar player. So it's, so we had a big batch of songs that he's still working on. Obviously, I will not speak to any of that as to like when any of that's going to come out or what it's going to sound like. That's totally his bag. He is the maestro behind all of that. But it was cool, man. Like, just really awesome, like vintage country, old timey stuff. So anyway, I played a bunch of percussion, and I don't know, I would send him files like that were probably a little bit over orchestrated, but it's all good.
That was one thing that he had said when I had asked him about it. He's like, so I asked Dan if he would mind like putting some drums or something on a track, and he's like, and then he sends me like 16 tracks back for one song. And he's like, he said it kind of got him more excited about it after that, because you added this whole other element that he wasn't expecting to that. So, I'm excited to hear some of this. And I actually,
it's cool.
I don't know if it was, but Tori posted a little clip of something on Facebook a day or two ago, and I think it might have been one of the songs that you guys have been working on.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I know he released one of the songs. So I know that exists, but and I think that's on, I'm not sure. I think it's on Bandcamp. I think he was just selling it like on Bandcamp and didn't put it on iTunes. Again, like, that is better directed at the maestro, but it's really great stuff. And he, of course, like outdid himself with that project. So it's great. And the fun thing is you know, he'll be throwing me those songs. And so all of that tracking for that record is done. But I've got him on a bunch of new songs that I'm working on. So it's like a cool, you know, kind of trading files back and forth thing. So I've got a country artist that I'm working with right now. So
okay,
it's so he's shredding on that. So that's it's a lot of fun.
very nice. Yeah, Tori's a hell of a guitarist, man. So
he's
you're always
dope.
getting great material from him.
Oh yeah.
So the Sneaky Doodle stuff. I just lost my train of thought. Okay,
yeah.
This was we were talking about. This is where I was going with that. It's a quick recovery. That's the way we do it around here.
I like it.
So when we were hanging out at Christmas, you told me that you were working on some music, and you showed me a little clip of it. And I think it was some more like EDM type stuff. Tell me everything you can about that right now and what you're working on.
Can't tell you much, unfortunately, but it is a project that I'm working on with one of my very close friends that I have known for a very long time. And he is a wizard producer. And so it's going to be an EDM EP to be released in a TBD sort of way.
Keep everybody on their toes.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably heard me say this in a different interview, but it is people listening to this. If you're into that stuff, I don't know if you are, but if you are, it's like barn burning, like like 9 Inch Nails meets Excision meets I don't know. It's fun stuff. It's more melodic than Excision, but it's gonna be fun. So I can't really say too much about it, but that's something that'll be coming out.
Very cool.
At some point.
I definitely enjoyed the little clip that I heard down in Florida that you showed me. So, you know, I'm a lover of all kinds of music. So I'll be looking forward to that release coming out as well.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
So has there been any talk about a follow-up to Brainwashed Generation with Enuff Z'Nuff at the moment?
Not to my knowledge, sir. I mean, everybody's kind of doing their own thing right now, you know? So I think Chip's got something going on. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Like when you have him on, you know, he'll be able to answer that. But yeah, man, there's no plans that I've heard of tracking a new record or anything like that right now. Everybody's kind of just doing their own solo projects / you know, whatever their vibe is right now, you know. So I'm just here, you know, producing like 7 artists right now. So that's kind of my thing. So.
That's great. So, man, I really appreciate you coming on here and giving me some of your time.
No worries.
Let everybody know where they can kind of check all your stuff out at.
Sure. It's DanielHillDrums.com. I've got a studio now. It's called Shadowcat Studio. It's in Chicago. So doing a lot of my tracking in production and everything else out here these days. So I'm here producing records 8 hours a day. That website isn't up yet, but if you just go to DanielHillDrums.com or go to @DanHillDrums on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the standard social media giants, and shoot me a message. I would love to talk to you about whatever.
Absolutely, man.
It's you know, it's, I don't know, especially now everything's kind of like pretty impersonal. So it's I like people a lot. So I would much rather just like chat with you about like whatever. Don't just, you know, or whatever, like shoot me a message. Like, let's get to know each other, you know? So.
Absolutely. Y'all heard it here. Everybody just flood Dan Hill's inbox with all your kind messages. Well, no, dude, thank you so much for coming on here. I love the new tracks on the new record that you play on. Looking forward to all this exciting new stuff you got coming on. And me and you'll be able to say goodbye off air. I'm going to go ahead and end the live show here in a second. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you guys on Monday, I think, with Mr. Donnie V, formerly of Enuff Z'Nuff. So if you're liking the Enuff Z'Nuff stuff, tune back in Monday night and we'll have some more stories for you. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight.